Good afternoon, Rachel. Thanks for joining us.
Of course.
Rachel, just wanted to have a conversation with you so our students can understand what you do on a day-to-day basis. So tell us a little bit about your role and your company and what you do every day.
Yeah, that's a great question. As the founder of a startup, there is no day that is the same. So that is one thing that is very exciting, is that you're never bored. There's always something new coming across your table. And I cannot say that there were any 2 days that ever were the same. So I founded a company called Intrinio. We're located actually here in St. Petersburg. And we are a financial data company. So data is the fuel behind capital markets. Everything runs off of it. Every investment decision is made off of it. But historically, data is very expensive, hard to get access to, and not a lot of good developer tools for anyone technical that wants to consume the data. So that's what our company is working towards, is using artificial intelligence and machine learning to go out and source unique financial data sets, clean them, normalize them, and then pipe them through efficient developer tools, get the data in the hands of innovators. So our customers that are buying our data are either fintech companies that are building investment apps and portfolio management software and trading bots, or actual investors in the kind of quantitative algorithmic space that just want streams of quick, efficient, affordable data to put into their investment strategies. So it's a unique place to be. We get to see fintech happening every day with people that are buying our data and building cool things. Oftentimes it's students as well who are leveraging the data and learning how to pull data down, chart data, graph data, things like that. And so that's what I started, and it's been quite a journey. Today we have almost 30 employees. We will have 30 employees soon. And we've raised almost $10 million in financing. So we're kind of a Series A stage startup. So what that means for me is that I have a lot of things on my plate. So I'm in charge of the general strategic direction of the company, right? High level, what are our priorities? How do we grow the business? How do we return value to shareholders and build a big, valuable business that's making lots of money? And there's no easy answer to that. Otherwise, everybody would be a successful entrepreneur. So that's the main part of my job, is the strategic direction of how do we grow and scale the company. And the component pieces of that are everything from funding the business. So I spend a lot of time finding investors, pitching to investors, going through the fundraising process, and then all the investor relations that happens to keep them up to date and informed over time and get advice from them. So there's the fundraising, and you need to fund the business in the first place. People is probably the second biggest part of my job. Hiring the right people that fit our culture, that are passionate about what we're doing, that have the right skills, both financial, technical, marketing, sales, all the above. So finding the right people, bringing them in, getting them working, getting them up and trained, and building a great executive team, checking in with everybody, keeping the team up to date. Those kind of internal people hiring communications is a big chunk of it. At a company of our size, I still also spend a lot of time on the sales front, but bigger strategic partnerships and sales are some things, if we're talking about big Fortune 100 financial services firms, I'm typically helping with some of those sales and integrations and partnerships. I'm also the face of the company as the founder. I've been in it since day one. I know where we came from. I can tell the story really, really well. And so I do a lot of promotion. I write for the Forbes Finance Council to continue kind of being a thought leader and showing the kinds of things that we're focused on at Intrinio. I speak on a lot of panels, do a lot of interviews, things like that. So there's the conferences and PR and media side of the job as well to get the word out. So fundraising, hiring, managing the team, sales, partnerships, promotion, PR, and then strategy is another piece too, which is oftentimes overlooked, but I need to be completely up to speed with the competitive landscape, the industry that we're operating in, the economic outlook. So lots of research, and also being a first-time CEO, my job changes every time the business grows, which is a big challenge, right? Because I have a bigger size team. I have different scaling and operational challenges. I'm dealing with different investors. And it's a totally different game to be having a 1 person, a 10 person, a 30 person, and a 50 person company. So that self-education piece is a really important one for me as well. I've got a lot of great mentors, but how can I be a better CEO, and how do I need to learn how to navigate these next corners? So I think that's kind of a component too, is always continually learning. So lots of things that I'm in charge of. It's hard to prioritize those things sometimes.
Well, 24/7 job, yes,
Yes.
as you are leading the startup, no question about it.
Yeah.
As clearly this was a journey that started off for you at, University of Wisconsin-Madison when you were a student yourself.
Right.
And so talk to us a little bit about that journey from there to where you got here, and what are key skill sets that was important in that journey so that our students understand both technical skill set, but also the soft skills that you see is critical for them?
It's a great question. So believe it or not, I was a musical theater major when I first started, which surprises a lot of people. But to a degree, it helps with all the pitching and speaking and stuff. So it wasn't a total waste. But I was always very kind of split brain, left and right brain. I loved math. And so I took an intro to finance course and just absolutely fell in love with, this is nerdy, but the present value of money formula. It just clicked for me, and I actually have it as an art piece in our office. And so I fell in love with finance. I didn't know exactly what part of finance I wanted to go into. I had a really awful job as a student assistant at a big software company, and I was micromanaged, and it was just everything that you don't want out of an experience, which really turned me off to having a boss. And so it was at that point in time where I said, let me add entrepreneurship as a second major. And so I double majored in finance and entrepreneurship. And I knew I liked finance. I knew I wanted to be my own boss. And that's about all I knew when I was heading up towards graduation. And I had job offers from traditional finance firms I could have gone to work at, but I ended up meeting my co-founder my senior year, and he was working on some software that I thought was really interesting that he was using for personal use. And I said, hey, let's talk about this. This could really be a business, and took a huge leap of faith and moved onto his couch and slept there for a year to get the business off the ground. So to that point, grit is very important, right? It's tough to raise money. You don't want to raise money early on when you're starting a business. If it's too early, because you give away too much. And so there's that early kind of sweat equity phase of the business where you really got to know what you're getting yourself into if you want to start a company, because you've got to self-fund, you got to kind of get things going on your own. And those are some of the hardest years. And so having that resilience and grit, I think is a undervalued skill set that you need to really be an entrepreneur. But obviously, heading into building a business in the fintech space, the finance background was invaluable to me. It's not only just kind of a checkbox you need on your resume for people to say, why are you building a fintech company in the first place? Where's your experience? Sometimes it's helpful to have those degrees, and also just general knowledge of the industry, right? That's very important. I will say that I taught myself how to program because I didn't get any technical skills through my business program at University of Wisconsin-Madison. We maybe used Excel once or twice in a program. And so I graduated knowing I had to build a technical solution for this finance problem, and I had to teach myself. And so the good news is there's tons of resources out there, but if you're gonna be in the technology world at all, having a basic understanding of Python, SQL, basic database queries, what is an API, how do they work? Those are kind of three areas I think are very important. To just have a basic understanding. And if you're not an engineer, right? If you're not, which I wasn't, right? I taught myself, I became a hacker and got it from A to B. But if you're not an engineer, you're eventually going to get kicked out of the code base, which is what happened to me. And it was the right thing to do. We hired a team of engineers that had decades of experience that really needed to take things to the next level. But I will say, having done the grunt work of teaching myself and learning gave me a lot of respect with my engineering team. They knew I knew what they were going through. And so whatever you can do to brush up on some skills, get some basic knowledge and understanding, it will go a long way. And adding those technical, accolades to your finance or your accounting or whatever you're studying is really important if you're going to head into the tech or startup world.
That's a great advice, and I think that's the key aspect. As I said, you started off as a music major, but there's a lot of, analytical skill set that goes into music because, as you're talking about this, but also, as I said, the key soft skills you develop along the way, along with grit, but it's also the ability to speak. I mean, I know I've seen you speak many times, so it's the ability to be able to pitch, the ability to speak. So as we bring this to a close, if any of our students are thinking about being an entrepreneur and starting up a fintech company, what are the last words of advice you have for them, Rachel?
Oh my goodness. I would say move faster than you think you're going to need to move, because fintech is evolving at a rapid pace, and there are a lot of technology companies that don't even have a finance background that are starting to realize how many opportunities there are to innovate and disrupt the financial services space, starting to really take off. And so whatever you're building, whatever idea you have, there's probably 3 people that had the same idea. You'd be very surprised. And so I think speed is very important. You want to be careful as you scale and grow and build, but speed to market is probably one of the most important things in a space as competitive as this. So that'd be my advice.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Of course. Thanks, Sri.